Han stood at the observation window of the Lunar Research Station and looked at Earth. The blue planet hung in the black sky like a jewel. He could see the white clouds moving slowly over Asia. Somewhere down there in Seoul, his wife was probably finishing her shift at the hospital. She was 7 months pregnant. Their daughter would be born in 2 months. They had already picked a name. Smiled and touched the glass. He was an aerospace engineer, and he had been on the moon for 3 weeks. Tomorrow, he would finally go home. He would hold his wife. He would feel his daughter kick inside her belly. Tomorrow never came the way he planned. The alarm started at exactly 14:32 Earth Standard Time. Had been eating lunch in the cafeteria when the red lights began flashing. Everyone stopped eating. Everyone looked up. "This is not a drill," the station commander's voice said through the speakers. "All personnel report to observation deck immediately. We have contact." Contact, the word meant only one thing: aliens. Humanity had known for decades that they were not alone in the universe. They had found old ruins on Mars. They had detected strange signals from distant stars, but they had never met another living species. Until now. Ran to the observation deck with everyone else. When he got there, he could not believe what he saw. Ships, thousands of ships. They filled the space between the moon and Earth like a swarm of metal insects. Each one was bigger than anything humanity had ever built. The largest ones were the size of cities. 3,000 vessels confirmed, someone said in a shaking voice. They came out of some kind of fold in space. No warning, nothing. Grabbed a communication terminal and called Earth. He called personal number. It took forever to connect. Her voice was scared. "What is happening? The sky is. There are things in the sky. Everyone is running." "Stay inside," he said. "Stay at the hospital. I am sure this will be okay. Maybe they are friendly." But even as he said it, he did not believe it. The ships did not look friendly. They looked like weapons. The alien transmission came 30 minutes later. It broadcast on every frequency in every language. Somehow, they already knew how to speak to humans. "People of Earth," the voice said. It was cold and had no emotion. "We are the Empire. We rule 12 star systems. You have been selected for integration. Your planet will become a harvest world. Your resources and population will serve the Empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Resistance will result in extinction." Silence, complete silence on the observation deck. Felt his heart beating so fast it hurt. Earth's government responded within an hour. They were scared, but they tried to negotiate. They asked for time. They asked for terms. They asked what harvest world meant. They answered, "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. You have 72 hours." The governments of Earth came together faster than ever before in human history. They argued. They debated. They tried to find a solution. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to hide. They asked for more time to decide. They gave them 72 seconds. Was still holding the communication terminal when the first plasma beams hit Earth. He watched through the window as lines of fire fell from the alien ships. They struck the surface like the fingers of an angry god. He saw flashes of light across the planet. He saw clouds of fire rising into the atmosphere. He saw entire cities disappear in seconds. His terminal beeped, was calling him. She was screaming. He could hear explosions in the background. "The hospital is shaking. Everything is falling. I can see fire in the sky." "Get out, run." He was crying. He did not care who saw him. "There is nowhere to run. Everything is burning. I love you. Tell our daughter." The line went dead. Screamed. He screamed until his voice broke. He beat his fists against the window until his knuckles bled. Through the glass, he watched his world die. The bombardment lasted less than 4 hours. When it was finished, Earth was no longer blue. It was orange and black and gray. The oceans boiled. The forests burned. The cities were gone. 7 billion people, every man, woman, and child on the planet, were dead. 7 billion. The number was too large to understand. 7 billion hearts that stopped beating. 7 billion voices that went silent. 7 billion dreams that ended in fire. Did not move from the window for 2 days. He stood there and watched the planet burn. He did not eat. He did not sleep. He just watched. Other survivors came and went. Some cried. Some screamed. Some just stared in silence like him. The departed after 1 week. Their ships folded space and vanished as quickly as they had come. They left behind only a message. This world has been. We will return in 50 years to harvest what remains. Any attempt at resistance will result in complete extermination. 50 years. They were so confident that they gave humanity 50 years to rebuild before coming back to enslave them. The survivors counted themselves. On the moon there were 40,000. On Mars there were 100,000. On the various space stations and deep space colonies there were another 2 million. In total, 2.3 million humans remained alive. From 7 billion to 2.3 million, in 4 hours. Admiral arrived at the lunar station 1 month after the attack. He was a hard man with gray hair and cold eyes. He had commanded Earth's small defense fleet from Mars. His ships had tried to fight they had been destroyed in minutes. He found still at the window, still staring at Earth. Engineer Hand said, "I need to talk to you." Did not turn around. Why? Because you are the best aerospace engineer we have left. Because we need to rebuild. Because we need ships. For what? To surrender. Put his hand on shoulder. No, not to surrender, to fight. Finally turned. His eyes were empty and red from crying. Fight. You saw what they did. We cannot fight them. We are insects to them. Maybe, said, but insects can sting, and we have 50 years to learn how to sting hard enough to kill. Something stirred inside. It was not hope. Hope had died with. It was something darker, something colder. It was hate. 50 years, he said slowly. 50 years, repeated. Will you help us? Looked back at Earth one more time. He thought of his daughter who would never be born. He thought of 7 billion souls crying out for justice. Then he turned to and nodded. 50 years, he said. That is all we need. He walked away from the window for the first time in weeks. Behind him, Earth continued to glow orange in the darkness. Humanity had been broken, but broken things can be reforged, and sometimes they become stronger than they were before. The thought they had destroyed humanity that day, they were wrong. They had created something new, something dangerous. They had created an enemy that would never stop, never forgive, never forget. And in 50 years, that enemy would come for them. Park was born on the moon 3 months after Earth burned. Her mother never held her. Her mother had died in soul with 7 billion others, but her father, Han, made sure she knew everything about the woman she would never meet. Your mother was brave, he told her when she was 5 years old. She was a doctor. She saved lives. She loved you before you were even born. Grew up looking at photographs of a blue planet covered in white clouds. She grew up hearing stories of oceans and forests and rain. She grew up knowing that all of it was gone because of creatures called. And she grew up with one purpose burned into her heart: revenge. Did not raise his daughter alone. The entire surviving human race raised her. Every child born after the attack was raised the same way. They were called the children of fire. They were taught to remember. They were taught to hate. They were taught to wait. While the children learned, the adults worked. Became the lead engineer of the Human Remnant Council. Admiral became its military commander. Together, they began building something they could never have imagined. In the first year, they collected debris. The attack had left pieces of destroyed ships floating in Earth's orbit. Human teams flew dangerous missions to collect every fragment. They brought it back to hidden laboratories on the dark side of the moon. Understand the enemy, said. That is the first rule of war. They studied the alien technology for years. It was incredibly advanced. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans had barely reached Mars, but human scientists were determined. They worked without rest. They solved problems that seemed impossible. Was one of those scientists. He was young when the attack happened, only 25 years old. He had been studying physics on Mars when his entire family died on Earth. He turned his grief into focus. He turned his focus into weapons. They use plasma technology, he explained to the council when he was 40. Very powerful, but it has weaknesses. I have designed something better. He called his creation the Extinction Protocol. It was a series of weapons more powerful than anything humans had ever built. Missiles that could crack planets, beams that could cut through any armor, and his masterpiece, a device called the Reckoning. This can make a star explode, said quietly. If we use it on the sun, we can destroy their entire home system. The council was silent for a long time. That would kill billions of them, someone said, including innocents, children. His face was hard. They killed 7 billion of us, including children, including my sister. She was 9 years old. Raised his hand. We build it, we keep it as a last option, but we hope we never have to use it. The Reckoning was built in secret. It was hidden in the deepest vault on Mars. Only 5 people knew where it was. The second decade brought the greatest breakthrough. Human scientists finally understood how they traveled faster than light. They called it fold technology. It bent space like folding a piece of paper, allowing ships to jump across vast distances in seconds. Within 5 years, humans had built their own fold drives. They were crude at first. Early tests destroyed 3 ships and killed dozens of brave pilots, but they kept trying. They kept dying. They kept improving. By the 30th year after the attack, humanity had faster-than-light travel. They used it carefully. They sent small, hidden probes to spy on the Empire. They mapped enemy territory. They counted enemy ships. They studied enemy weaknesses. What they learned gave them hope. The Empire was vast but old. It had conquered 93 species over thousands of years. Most of those species were now extinct, worked to death on harvest worlds. The ones that survived were slaves, broken and obedient. They had not fought a real war in centuries. They did not need to. Every species they met surrendered or died. They had forgotten what it felt like to face an enemy that would not give up. They are arrogant, said. She was the head of the new psychological warfare division. Her job was to understand how the enemy thought. They believe they cannot lose. They have never met a species that survived their first attack and came back for revenge. They will meet one now, said. She was 30 years old, already a commander in the growing fleet. She had her father's intelligence and her mother's courage. She also had something else, something cold and patient that lived behind her eyes. The shipyards were built in the asteroid belt, hidden among millions of rocks where no one would look. Thousands of workers lived there in secret. They built ships day and night. Every ship was painted black to absorb sensor readings. Every ship was designed for one purpose: war. By the 40th year, they had 3,000 ships. By the 45th year, they had 8,000. By the 50th year, the year the promise to return, they had 12,000 warships waiting in the darkness. Was 84 years old when the scouts arrived. He was old now, his hair white and his body weak, but his mind was still sharp and his hate still burned. He sat in the command center on Mars when the long-range sensors detected a small ship approaching Earth. Just one ship, sent to check on the planet before the main harvest fleet arrived. Capture it, he ordered, alive. Human ships emerged from hiding and surrounded the scout. They tried to fight, but they were outnumbered 20 to 1. They were disabled and boarded within minutes. The crew was brought to a secure facility on Mars. They were tall, thin creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They looked at their human captors with confusion and contempt. "You should be dead," one of them said. "Your species was." "Your species made a mistake," replied. They interrogated them for weeks. They learned everything: fleet positions, communication codes, the Emperor's location. Then they made a decision. "We release them," said. Everyone stared at him. "We let them go," he continued. "But first we give them a message." The message was carved into the skin in their own language. It was a simple message, just 3 lines. "We remember. We are coming. Prepare to die." The scouts were put back in their repaired ship and allowed to leave. They folded space and ran back to their empire, carrying humanity's promise. 3 days later called a final meeting of the council. He knew his time was short. His doctors gave him only a few more years. "50 years ago they killed everyone I loved," he said, his voice weak but steady. "They thought that was the end. They were wrong. That was the beginning. We have built something here, something they cannot imagine, something that will make them pay for every single life they took." He looked at his daughter, stood tall and proud, wearing the black uniform of the human fleet. "I will not live to see the end of this," said, "but she will, and she will finish what we started." Stepped forward and took her father's hand. "They think we are weak," she said. "They think we are primitive. They will learn the truth. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not forget. And humanity does not forgive." The council rose and saluted. In the darkness between stars, 12,000 black ships waited in silence. Their crews slept and trained and dreamed of fire. They had waited 50 years for this moment. They were coming to harvest a dead world. They would find an army instead. Emperor the Eternal sat on his throne and laughed. He had ruled the empire for 600 years. He had watched 93 species kneel before him or burn. He had destroyed worlds without counting them. He was, in his own mind, a god. And now his scouts brought him a message carved into their own flesh by primitives. "They say they are coming," one of his generals reported. "They say we should prepare to die." Laughed until tears ran down his gray face. "The humans, those weak creatures from that tiny planet, we destroyed them 50 years ago. They are nothing. They have always been nothing. My emperor, perhaps we should send a larger force to investigate." "No," waved his 4 arms dismissively. "Send the standard harvest fleet, 50 ships. If any humans have somehow survived, crush them again. This time leave no survivors at all." He turned back to his entertainment, already forgetting about the humans. That was his first mistake. The harvest fleet arrived at Earth 3 months later. 50 warships, each one large enough to carry 10,000 soldiers. They expected to find a dead planet and a few scattered survivors. They found the survivors, but they did not find them on Earth. "Admiral, we are detecting energy readings from the asteroid belt," an officer reported. "Thousands of them. They appear to be ships." "That is impossible. Humans do not have that many ships." "They do now." The Black Fleet emerged from the asteroids like ghosts rising from graves. 12,000 warships, all painted the color of the void. They moved in perfect formation, silent and deadly. Admiral commanded the vanguard. He was son, raised on Mars with the same cold purpose as every other survivor. He was 30 years old and had been training for this moment his entire life. "This is the human fleet to vessels," he broadcast. 50 years ago, you killed 7 billion of our people. Today, we begin collecting that debt. Surrender is not accepted." The commander tried to respond. He tried to negotiate. He tried to threaten. The humans did not listen. The battle lasted 47 minutes. They fought with the confidence of conquerors, expecting the primitives to break and run. They did not break. They did not run. They attacked with a fury they had never seen. Human weapons cut through shields like they were paper. Human ships moved faster, turned sharper, hit harder. Every shot seemed to find its target. Every missile struck true. When it was over, all 50 ships were debris. Not a single one escaped. Not a single one surrendered. News of the defeat took 3 days to reach Emperor. He did not laugh this time. How, he demanded. How did primitive creatures destroy 50 of our ships? His advisors had no answer. Send 500 ships, find these humans, destroy them completely. But the humans did not wait to be found. They came for the Empire instead. Commander Park led the main fleet to the agricultural world of Palace 7. It was a planet dedicated to growing food for the Empire. Millions of slaves worked its fields under masters. The human fleet appeared in orbit without warning. This time there were no warnings, no negotiations, just fire. They destroyed the military stations first, then the orbital defenses, then every warship in the system. The attack took 6 hours. But then something unexpected happened. Ordered her ships to hold fire. She looked at the planet below, at the millions of people working in the fields. Many of them were not. They were members of conquered species, slaves who had never known freedom. Commander, her tactical officer said, we have clear shots on the planetary facilities. Do we fire? No, said. There are civilians down there, slaves. They are not our enemy. They did not care about our civilians. I know, but we are not them. Instead of bombing the planet, ordered her communications officer to broadcast a message. It played on every screen and speaker on Palace 7. The message was simple. It showed footage of Earth burning. It showed the 7 billion dead. It showed what they had done. Then's face appeared on the screens. People of Palace 7, she said, we are humans. 50 years ago, the Empire destroyed our world and killed almost everyone we loved. We have come for justice, but we have not come for you. We do not fight slaves. We do not kill innocents. We fight the Empire. If you are a slave, you are now free. If you are a soldier, you have 1 hour to leave this planet. If you stay, you will die. The garrison tried to fight. Human troops landed and destroyed them in 2 days. The slaves watched in amazement as their masters fell. The news spread across the Empire like fire. A species they had destroyed had come back from the dead. They were freeing slaves. They were winning battles. They were not afraid. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt something it had forgotten. Fear. Shin became the face of the human offensive. She was only 22 years old, a pilot born on the lunar colony. She had never seen Earth except in pictures. She had never felt rain or grass or sunlight. But she could fly like no one else. During the Battle of Station 9, performed what military historians would later call the most impressive piloting in human history. She flew her small fighter through a wall of enemy fire, dodged 300 missiles, and destroyed a battlecruiser by flying into its reactor port and launching her weapons at point-blank range. Her fighter was destroyed in the explosion, but she ejected at the last second. She floated in space for 6 hours before rescue ships found her, still alive, still fighting. Why did you do it? Reporters asked her later. You almost died. Looked at the camera with eyes that held no fear. I am already dead, she said. I died when they killed Earth, when they killed everyone who should have taught me what trees look like, what oceans smell like, what my grandparents' voices sounded like. This body is just borrowed time. I will use every second of it to make them pay. Her words spread across every human colony. Soldiers repeated them before battles. Children wrote them on walls. They became the motto of a species that had lost everything and had nothing left to lose. Emperor finally understood the threat. He mobilized his full military force, 50,000 warships from across the empire. It was the largest fleet that had assembled in 300 years. Find the human worlds, he commanded. Destroy them all, leave nothing alive, not even their children, especially not their children. His fleet launched toward human space. The war for survival had truly begun. Received the intelligence report on the bridge of her flagship. 50,000 ships were coming. Her fleet had only 12,000. "We cannot win a direct battle," said. "We will be destroyed." "Then we will not fight a direct battle," replied. "We will fight our way. We will hit them where they do not expect. We will make them bleed for every light year they travel. We will turn this war into a nightmare they cannot wake up from." She turned to face her officers. "They have never faced an enemy like us. They conquer through overwhelming force. They expect surrender or extinction. They do not know how to fight a species that cannot be scared, cannot be broken, and will never, ever stop." She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "Let us teach them." The first lesson began that night. The war lasted 7 years. 7 years of fire and blood and loss. 7 years of victory and defeat. 7 years that changed the galaxy forever. Humanity could not match the numbers. For every human ship there were 4 ships. For every human soldier there were 10 soldiers. Direct battles meant death. So humanity did not fight direct battles. They struck supply lines. They assassinated commanders. They appeared from nowhere, destroyed targets, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. They turned the war into 1,000 small cuts, each one bleeding the empire. They did not know how to respond. They had always won through overwhelming force. They would send a fleet to crush the humans, and the humans would simply leave. They would chase the human ships, and the humans would lead them into traps. It was like fighting shadows. Han died in the 3rd year of the war. He was 91 years old. His body had finally given up, worn out by decades of work and grief. Was at his bedside when he passed. The old man could barely speak, but his eyes were still sharp. He whispered, "My daughter, you look so much like your mother. Father, save your strength." "No, listen to me." He grabbed her hand with surprising force. "Finish it for your mother, for all of them, but—" He coughed and blood appeared on his lips. "Do not become like them. Do not become monsters. Revenge is not enough. You must build something better when this is over." "I promise, Father." "Good." He smiled, the first genuine smile she had seen from him in years. "I will see your mother now. I will tell her about you. She will be so proud." His eyes closed. His breathing stopped. The man who had survived the death of everything he loved was finally at peace. Did not cry. There would be time for tears after the war. She stood, straightened her uniform, and walked back to the command center. There was still work to do. Commanded the frontline forces. He was a brilliant commander, but he carried a rage inside him that worried his friends. He had lost his father, Admiral, in a battle 2 years ago. The old warrior had died ramming his damaged ship into a carrier. A good death, told himself, but the loss still burned. Then he met. She was but not like the others. She was born on a conquered world to a father and a slave mother from another species. She had been raised as a servant, treated as less than nothing. When the humans freed her planet, she chose to join them. "My people did terrible things," she told. "I want to help stop them." At first hated her. She was. Her people had killed his father, his grandfather, 7 billion humans. How could he trust her? But proved herself again and again. She provided intelligence about tactics. She helped decode enemy communications. She risked her life on dangerous missions. Slowly, his hate began to change. He saw that was not her empire. She was a person who had chosen to fight for what was right. "My father would have hated you," he told her one night after a battle. "I know," she said. "My father would have killed you." They looked at each other for a long moment. "Maybe our children will do better," said quietly. It was the first time either of them had imagined a future beyond the war. The turning point came in the 5th year. Human forces captured a major communications hub. They did not destroy it. They used it. The psychological warfare expert had been planning this moment for years. She broadcast a message to every world in the empire. Every planet with a screen saw it. Every species under rule heard it. The message showed the truth. It showed the 93 species that had destroyed. It showed the millions who died in their mines and factories. It showed the children taken from their families. It showed the world's turn to ash. And then it showed what humans were doing. It showed freed slaves celebrating. It showed soldiers running in fear. It showed a species that had been destroyed rising from its grave to fight back. The Empire tells you that resistance is impossible, said in the broadcast. They are lying. They have always been lying. We are proof that the Empire can be beaten. Join us and be free. Stand with the Empire and share their fate. The choice is yours. 17 worlds surrendered within a month. Their slave populations rose up. Their masters fled or died. The rebellion spread like wildfire. Emperor responded with fury. He executed 30 of his own generals for failure. He ordered entire planets destroyed as punishment for disloyalty. He declared that any species that aided the humans would be completely exterminated. But fear no longer worked. The conquered species had seen something they thought impossible. They had seen hope. The 6th year brought the greatest battle of the war. They gathered their remaining strength for a massive assault on New Sol, the human capital on Mars. 20,000 ships attacked, determined to cut off the head of the rebellion. The defense of New Sol lasted 3 weeks. Human forces were outnumbered, but they had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Every asteroid was a fortress. Every moon was a weapon. Every inch of space was filled with traps and mines and hidden guns. They pushed forward anyway. They did not care about losses. They only cared about victory. Shin led the fighter squadrons. For 3 weeks, she flew mission after mission, sleeping only when her body collapsed from exhaustion. She destroyed more ships than any other pilot in the fleet. On the final day of the battle, a carrier broke through the defense line. It was heading straight for New Sol. Its weapons were charging for a bombardment that would kill millions. Was the only pilot close enough to stop it? Her fighter was damaged. Her weapons were almost empty. She had 1 missile left and a ship that was falling apart. "Commander," she called to, "I can stop it, but I will not survive." "Wait for backup." "There is no time. They die or I die. Easy choice." She did not wait for a response. She pushed her fighter to maximum speed and flew straight at the carrier. Guns tried to stop her. She dodged them all, spinning and diving through the fire with the skill that had made her famous. At the last moment, she aimed for the carrier's bridge. She could see the commander through the windows, his 4 arms raised in shock. "This is for Earth," she said. "This is for everyone." She fired her last missile and rammed her fighter into the bridge. The carrier exploded. The bombardment never came. New Sol was saved. Was gone. Received the news on the command deck. She did not cry. There would be time for tears after the war. She added its name to the memorial wall, which now held hundreds of thousands of names. "Almost there," she whispered to the wall. "We are almost there." They retreated. They had lost 10,000 ships at New Sol. Their remaining fleet was broken and scattered. Their conquered worlds were in open rebellion. Their empire was collapsing. Emperor sat on his throne and watched his domain burn. "How?" he screamed at his remaining advisors. "How did primitives do this to us?" No one had an answer. In the darkness of space, the human fleet regrouped. They had paid a terrible price. Millions had died. Heroes like were gone forever. The memorial wall grew longer every day. But they were winning. After 7 years of war, they were finally winning. One last battle remained. Stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Remembrance. She was 59 years old now, her hair gray and her face lined with years of war. But her eyes still held the same cold fire they had held since childhood. Set course for Prime, she ordered. We end this where it began, at the heart of the Empire. The fleet moved as one. 30,000 ships now, including vessels from species who had joined the rebellion. They flew toward The final battle was coming. Commander Park had to admit that as she looked at the planet through the remembrance. It was larger than Earth had been, with purple oceans and continents covered in silver forests. 3 moons circled it slowly. 12 billion lived on its surface. 58 years ago, her mother had looked up at a sky filled with ships. Today, children looked up at a sky filled with human ships. The circle was complete. Commander, her tactical officer reported, we have the planet surrounded. Emperor is broadcasting a message. Let him speak. The Emperor's face appeared on screen. He was ancient, his gray skin wrinkled and his forearms thin with age. But his eyes still held the arrogance of 600 years of rule. Humans said, you have come far, further than any species before you, but this is where your journey ends. I have ordered every weapon on Prime aimed at its own core. If you attack, I will destroy everyone on it. 12 billion of my own people. You will gain nothing but ashes. The bridge was silent. He is not lying, said from her station. Our sensors confirm massive weapons installations pointing inward. He will do it. He will kill his own people to deny us victory, asked, disgusted. He has killed 93 species to build his empire, replied. 12 billion more deaths mean nothing to him. Continued speaking. Withdraw your fleet, leave space forever. In return, I will allow your species to survive in your little corner of the galaxy. This is my offer. You have 1 hour to accept it. The transmission ended. Turned to face her senior officers. They had come so far, they had lost so much. Her father, millions of others. The memorial wall was covered with names of the dead. And now the monster who had started it all was hiding behind a shield of innocent lives. What do we do? Asked. Walked to the window and looked at Prime. She thought about her mother, dying in soul. She thought about 7 billion souls who never got justice. She thought about her father's last words. Do not become like them. Do not become monsters. She thought about the reckoning, still hidden in a vault on Mars. One command and she could destroy the sun. One command and this entire system would cease to exist. One command, and she would become exactly what she hated. Prepare the reckoning, she said quietly. Her officers stared at her in shock. Commander, that would kill billions of innocents. I know, her voice was flat. Prepare it, but do not launch it, not yet. She turned to face her crew. 58 years ago, we lost everything. We built ourselves back from nothing. We fought a war across the stars. We freed billions of slaves. We broke an empire that stood for thousands of years. We did all of this because we had to, because they gave us no choice. She paused. But now we have a choice. We can destroy them completely. We can make them feel what we felt when Earth burned. We can have our revenge, total and absolute. She looked at the planet again. Or we can be better than them. We can show the galaxy that humanity does not just know how to destroy. We know how to build. We know how to hope. We know how to be merciful, even to those who showed us none. Commander said slowly, what are you saying? I am saying we do not need to destroy their world to win this war. We just need to remove the monster who rules it. She turned to her tactical display. Prepare the special operations teams. We are going to assault the Imperial Palace directly. We will capture the Emperor alive. We will put him on trial for his crimes. And we will let the people decide their own future. That is insane, someone said. The palace is the most defended structure in the galaxy. Then we will have to be very good. Was one of the soldiers chosen for the assault? He was 24 years old, born on Mars 3 years after the attack. He had never seen Earth. He had never known a world that was not at war. He carried a flag in his pack. It was the flag of Earth, blue and green and white. It had been made from pieces of cloth collected from the ruins. Every soldier in the assault team carried something from Earth, something to remind them what they were fighting for. Nervous, another soldier asked him. Terrified, admitted. But I keep thinking about what Commander Park said. We are not just fighting for revenge anymore. We are fighting for what comes after, for the future. You really believe that? Looked at the flag in his hands. I have to, otherwise what was the point of any of this? The assault began at dawn on Prime. Human ships launched a massive attack on the orbital defenses, drawing attention away from the palace. While the space battle raged, 30 small transports dropped through the atmosphere and landed in the mountains near the capital city. Led the ground assault, was at his side wearing the same black uniform as the human soldiers. She knew the palace layout. She knew the guard rotations. She knew where the emperor would hide. This way, she said, leading them through ancient tunnels beneath the city. These passages have not been used in centuries. They will not expect an attack from below. They fought through the tunnels, through the basements, through the lower levels of the palace. Guards fell before them. Nothing could stop them now. They reached the throne room an hour after landing. Emperor sat on his throne, surrounded by his last defenders. He held a control device in one hand, his finger hovering over a button. One more step, he said, and I destroy everything. My planet, my people, your fleet in orbit, all of it. You would kill 12 billion of your own people, asked. They are mine to kill. Everything in this empire is mine. I built it, I rule it. I decide when it ends. You built it on corpses, replied. 93 species, billions of slaves, and 7 billion humans who never did anything to you. They were in our way, just as you are in our way now. His finger trembled over the button. History will forget your species. You are nothing. You have always been nothing. Stepped forward. You are wrong. We are not nothing. We are the species that you could not destroy. We are the ones who came back. We are the ones who will be remembered long after your empire is forgotten. He raised his weapon. But we are not going to kill you. Death is too easy for you. You will live. You will watch as everything you built is torn down. You will watch as the species you enslaved build new lives. You will watch as the galaxy heals from the wounds you caused. And you will die knowing that you lost to the primitives you tried to exterminate. Screamed and pressed the button. Nothing happened. Stepped forward holding a small device. I disabled the trigger hours ago. Your own technology used against you. Fitting, I think. Guards rushed forward and the battle ended in seconds. Was captured alive, his 4 arms bound, his screams of rage echoing through the empty palace. Climbed to the highest tower of the palace. He looked out over the capital city, where fires burned and citizens cowered in fear. Above him, the sky was filled with human ships. He unfolded the flag of Earth. Slowly, carefully, he raised it over the palace of the empire. The blue and green cloth caught the wind, flying high above the ruins of a conquered conqueror. He thought about the 7 billion who had died. He thought about his parents who had survived to raise him on Mars. He thought about all the soldiers who had given their lives for this moment. We did it, he whispered. We actually did it. 20 years later, the galaxy was a different place. The empire was gone. In its place, a galactic coalition had formed, with representatives from 200 species. Humans sat at the table as equals, respected and sometimes feared. Emperor had died in prison, alone and forgotten. His trial had lasted 3 years. Every crime had been documented. Every victim had been named. When he finally passed, no one mourned. And Earth was coming back to life. Park, now 79 years old, returned to her for the first time. Her shuttle landed in what had once been Seoul, now a construction site where new buildings rose from the ashes. She walked slowly through the streets, leaning on a cane. The air still tasted of dust, but green shoots were pushing through the soil. Trees had been planted. Flowers were growing. She reached the memorial at the center of the city. It was a massive wall of crystal, stretching for kilometers. Every name of every person who had died in the attack was carved into its surface. 7 billion names. She found her mother's name near the center. She traced the letters with her old, wrinkled fingers. "We won, Mother," she said softly. "We made them pay for what they did, but we did not become like them. Father made me promise. I kept that promise." Tears ran down her face. After 58 years of war, she finally allowed herself to cry. Behind her, children were playing in the new parks. Some were human, some were from other species. They laughed and ran together, not caring about the differences between them. Ships from 100 worlds passed overhead. The galaxy was healing, and humanity, the species that had almost been destroyed, had helped make it possible. Smiled through her tears. They had not just survived. They had not just won. They had become something better, something her mother would have been proud of. They had become hope. And that was the greatest victory of all.